Watch someone in the room right now, before they open their mouth. Before a single word leaves their lips, you already know something about them. You feel it, a pull or a dismissal, respect or invisibility. That's not an accident. That's not charisma you're born with. That is architecture, built deliberately by people who understood one brutal truth. Words are the least powerful thing a human being owns. Your voice can be doubted, your promises can be broken, your arguments can be dismantled, but your presence, the way you occupy space, the way you hold silence, the way your eyes move or refuse to move, that cannot be argued with. It simply is. Tonight, I'm going to give you 5 psychological weapons. Not tricks for the weak, not affirmations. Weapons used quietly, used constantly, by the people who walk into rooms and reshape them without lifting a finger. 5 tools the Machiavellian mind has always understood, and the modern world has forgotten. Watch until the end, because the 5th one is the one most people can never bring themselves to use, and it's the most powerful of them all. Let's begin. Trick number 1, the discipline of silence. Here is the first thing you must unlearn, the belief that silence is emptiness. Silence is not empty, silence is loaded. Watch any room full of people desperate to be heard. They interrupt, they fill every gap, they rush to fix every pause with noise. And every single one of them loses power the moment they do it. Because here is what the untrained mind does not understand. When you speak too quickly, you are telling the room something you didn't intend to say. I am afraid of this silence. I need to fill it. I need your approval right now, or I cannot bear the discomfort. The disciplined mind does the opposite. When a question lands, they pause, not for effect, not as a performance. They pause because they are not owned by the need to respond instantly. Watch what happens in that gap. The room leans in. Attention sharpens. People start to wonder what's coming. So, and in that wondering, they hand you something they never hand to the noisy, the eager, the desperate. They hand you their focus. This is why interrogators are trained in silence. This is why negotiators are trained in silence. A trained mind knows that the first person to speak after a long pause often loses the exchange because they are the one who couldn't tolerate the tension. Think about the last negotiation you watched. A business deal, a salary discussion, even an argument between friends. The person who stayed quiet the longest almost always ended up with the upper hand because the other side, unable to bear the silence, started talking themselves into a worse position. They filled the gap with concessions nobody asked for. Practice this the next time someone asks you something. Let 2 full seconds pass before you answer. Just 2. It will feel like an eternity to you, and it will feel like gravity to them. Most people use their eyes like nervous animals, scanning, checking, looking away the second another person looks back. That instinct, to look away first, is a submission signal, as old as the animal kingdom itself. The second trick is simple to describe and brutal to master. Hold the gaze 1 full second longer than feels comfortable, and let the other person be the one who looks away. Not a glare, not aggression. A gaze without hunger, without apology, without the need to soften it with a nervous smile, calm, steady, unbothered by the discomfort it creates. Here's what's happening beneath the surface. The human nervous system reads sustained, calm eye contact as a signal of internal security. It reads darting, avoidant eyes as a signal of anxiety, of low status, of something to be overlooked. You are not trying to intimidate. You are simply refusing to perform the tiny surrender that most people perform 100 times a day without noticing. Picture 2 strangers meeting for the first time. One's eyes flick away within a second, to the floor, to their phone, to anything but the other person's face. The other holds steady, calm, present. Without either of them saying a word, the room has already assigned status. This is not imagination. This is a pattern observed again and again in how people instinctively defer to whoever seems least disturbed by being looked at. Try it in your next conversation. When someone finishes speaking, don't glance away to gather your thoughts. Hold. Let a half-second of stillness pass while your eyes stay locked, then respond. You will feel the shift in the room before you finish your sentence. Trick number 3. The economy of movement. Watch footage of any person the world considers powerful. A judge, an old-world diplomat, a chess master. mid-game. Notice what they don't do. They don't fidget. They don't adjust their clothing every few seconds. They don't tap their fingers, bounce their leg, or shift their weight compulsively. Every unnecessary movement your body makes is a small confession. It tells the room, I am uncomfortable in my own skin, right now in this moment. The third weapon is stillness, deliberate, economical movement. When you reach for something, you reach once, with purpose. When you sit, and you stay. When you gesture, the gesture means something. It isn't static noise. This is not about becoming rigid or robotic. It's about removing the 1,000 tiny leaks of anxious energy that broadcast your internal state to everyone watching, whether they consciously notice it or not. Think of two people sitting across a table during a tense discussion. One shifts constantly, checks their phone, taps a pen. The other sits like the chair was built for them, still grounded, unhurried. Even if both say the exact same words, the room will trust the second one more. Stillness reads as certainty. Certainty reads as authority. The mind reads economy of movement as control. And control abroad is the currency respect is built on. Start small. Notice one nervous habit you carry, a foot tap, a pen click, a hand that won't stay still. And for one conversation, just one, let it rest. This is where most people fail completely, because this is the trick that requires the most internal work. When someone insults you, interrupts you, tries to provoke a reaction, the untrained mind gives it to them immediately. A flinch, a raised voice, a defensive scramble to justify yourself, and the moment that happens, you have handed them something enormous. You have shown them exactly where your control ends. The Machiavellian understanding of power is this: whoever controls their reaction controls the exchange. Not whoever is right, not whoever is loudest, whoever stays composed while everyone around them loses composure. This doesn't mean suppressing everything you feel until it poisons you later. That's a different problem entirely. It means, in the moment, you create a half-second gap between the provocation and your response. In that gap, you choose. You are no longer a puppet pulled by someone else's words. Picture the person who receives an insult and simply waits, tilts their head slightly, lets a beat of silence answer instead of a defense. That silence is more devastating than any comeback could ever be, because it tells the room, that didn't land. You don't have that kind of access to me. Now picture the opposite, someone who explodes at the smallest provocation. Every outburst, every defensive scramble teaches the people around them exactly which buttons to press to control them. They think they're asserting themselves. In reality, they've just handed out a map to their own weaknesses. The next time someone tries to provoke you, don't suppress the feeling, just delay the reaction. Breathe once before you respond. That single breath is where your power lives. Trick number 5. Withholding approval. Here is the one most people can never bring themselves to do, because it goes against everything they were taught about being likable. Most people give approval instantly and constantly. They laugh at every joke, nod at every statement, praise every small thing, desperate to be seen as warm, as agreeable, as easy to be around. But here is the cold truth the Machiavellian mind understands. Approval that is given freely is worth nothing. When you praise everything, your praise loses all value. When you agree with everyone, your agreement means nothing. The fifth weapon is measured approval. You don't withhold it out of cruelty. You withhold it out of discipline. You react genuinely, not automatically. You let silence answer a mediocre statement instead of an obligatory smile. And when you do offer approval, real approval, it lands like a verdict, not a reflex. Think about the people whose praise actually means something to you. Chances are, it's not the person who compliments everything, it's the person who rarely does. So when they finally say, well done, it carries weight. That weight isn't accidental. It's built deliberately through restraint. People chase what is scarce. The moment your validation becomes rare, it becomes valuable. And the moment it becomes valuable, people begin working, consciously or not, to earn it. None of these 5 tricks were ever meant to be used alone, used in isolation. Each one is just a technique. Combined, they become something closer to an aura, a presence that people feel before they can explain why. Picture the full sequence. Someone asks you a difficult question in a meeting. The untrained response is instant. A quick answer, eyes darting, a nervous laugh to soften it, hands moving to fill the silence. The trained response looks completely different. A pause, 2 full seconds before you speak. Your eyes stay steady on theirs, not aggressive, just present. Your body doesn't shift, doesn't fidget, doesn't perform discomfort. When you finally answer, your tone is measured, unhurried, and if their point deserves no praise, you give none. Just a nod, just the truth. That entire sequence takes maybe 4 seconds, but in those 4 seconds, you have told the room 5 separate things. I am not afraid of silence. I am not afraid to be seen. I am comfortable in my own body. I am not owned by provocation, and my approval is not for sale. No one in that room could write down what just happened. They won't be able to explain why. They suddenly listen more closely when you speak. They'll simply feel it, the way people always feel status, before they can name it. This is precisely what separates people who are remembered in a room from people who are forgotten the moment they leave it. It has nothing to do with what they said. It has everything to do with what their presence communicated while they said it. And here's the part most people never realize. You don't need all 5 perfected to see a difference. Even mastering one, just one, changes how a room responds to you. Most people walk through life leaking anxious signals from every one of these 5 channels, all day, every day, without ever noticing. The moment you plug even one leak, you already stand apart from 90% of the room. 5 weapons. None of them require you to raise your voice. None of them require you to prove anything. All 5 require the same underlying discipline, the willingness to sit inside discomfort instead of rushing to escape it. Silence over the panic to fill it, a steady gaze over the instinct to look away, economy of movement over anxious noise, composure over the reflex to react, and approval that means something, because it isn't given to everyone. This is not about becoming cold. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about removing the 1,000 tiny surrenders most people make every single day without ever noticing they're making them. Power was never about being the loudest voice in the room. It was always about being the stillest. Start with just one this week. Pick the weapon that scares you the most, because that's always the one you need the most. Practice it in one conversation, then another, until it stops feeling like a performance and starts feeling like who you are. Now tell me, which of these 5 is hardest for you to master? Drop it in the comments, if you're honest enough to admit it. And if this sharpens something in you, subscribe, because the next lesson goes deeper than anything I've shown you tonight.